Hey, what's up, guys? So, in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about Goldeneye from 1995, but I want to expand it and talk about, in a broader sense, the series as a whole, the James Bond film franchise. Now, I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me anytime you talk about James Bond movies or the films is that there are certain elements that the films always have in common, no matter who the enemy is or what the plot may be. When you watch a James Bond movie, you're going to get a few things. You can expect to see a few things. You know, cars, right? You're always going to find cars, like really nice cars, exotic cars in James Bond movies. You're going to find exotic Bond girls, right? Showing off, like lavish and beautiful women is something that you see in a lot of Bond movies. You're gonna see a lot of firefights, a lot of explosions, a lot of little shootouts, a lot of scenes, a lot of action, and you're also gonna get the espionage, spy element, right? Where you see Bond playing with these different toys and these gadgets, pens that can explode, or watches that have lasers in them, stuff like that. And you're gonna get a pretty good story, and so that's the first thing that I kind of picked up on when I was watching Goldeneye today. I was like, yeah, this is definitely a James Bond movie because right from the get-go, you already have action. You have that stunt scene when he's bungee jumping. And then it goes into right from the first minute. There's action. There's an action scene. There's already tension being brought into the film. And then there's car chases. There's a tank chase, helicopter chase. It's like everything. Almost maybe like, I want to say maybe similar to Mission Impossible movies. But you also have this like class. Like James Bond is this suave guy, this like charming, good-looking, detective kind of superhero guy. Good-looking, chiseled jaw, calm under pressure, knows the right lines, knows those one-liners, what to say, knows how he likes his martinis. So those were the kind of the main elements that I thought about when I was watching this. It's like everything is there. The smoking of the cigars, the playing poker or craps, what have you. The beautiful girls and women dressed up. This kind of like high society life. And I've only seen 3 James Bond movies. So I've only seen Goldeneye, this one. I've seen Goldfinger maybe once. And I've seen You Only Live Twice multiple times. That was actually the first James Bond movie that I watched, where you had Sean Connery playing James Bond. And so that's something big too within the James Bond universe is you had multiple different actors playing James Bond. And so some people say, oh, Sean Connery was the best, or people say this guy is better, right? But that's a topic for another day. But I just kind of wanted to mention some of the kind of motifs that you see within each James Bond film. And that was the first thing I noticed, right? You got to have the cars, the girls, the explosions. It's all there. It's all in the film. But just talking about Goldeneye specifically, this was a first of many firsts because this was the first James Bond movie that was post-Cold War. So by the time this movie came out in 95, the Cold War was already over, right? The Berlin Wall fell in when did the Berlin Wall fall? I feel bad about this. Berlin Wall fell. Was it 1989? I thought, yeah, 1989. So the Cold War was over, and so what you found in these modern post-Cold War Bond films was much more of a tone with cyber warfare, right? So computers, satellites, Even though satellites were still kind of Cold War, you just had more of an emphasis on, technology and, cyber warfare. And also, this was the first Bond in after a kind of a 6-year hiatus, where the James Bond series was held in limbo, primarily from legal disputes. And during that time, Timothy Dalton, his contract expired, and so he was replaced with Pierce Brosnan. And I would say Pierce Brosnan did a good job as James Bond. It's funny because anytime I rewatch Mrs. Doubtfire, I'm like, that's James. That was my introduction to Pierce Brosnan. So you might have known Pierce Brosnan from other films, but my introduction to him was from Mrs. Doubtfire. And so, going back to the theme of Goldeneye and newer generations of James Bond movies, is the films are focused on. Well, they really reflected the anxieties in the 1990s in technology, right? You also had a huge tie-in with the GoldenEye 007 game on N64. Like, everyone knows that game. It's one of the most influential FPS, first-person shooters ever made. And, that goes without saying. And it's like, I think that game kind of made... reignited the interest for James Bond films and books and novels. But just a really good movie all around. I like the actresses. I like the actor. Of course, you had Sean Bean. You had other actors from the older generation of James Bond movies that reprised their roles in GoldenEye. The plot in GoldenEye was getting kind of convoluted. I will say that. Just it's in so many places at once. And I think that's where it gets kind of jumbled. But you still have the main, the core elements of what makes a James Bond film good, right? Usually some movies I think depend entirely on the plot. But we know with James Bond movies, you can have a subpar plot and still have a good movie because of the action sequences, the car chases, or in GoldenEye's case, the tank chase, where Pierce Brosnan is chasing the enemy in a real T-55 tank. So that was not CGI. The famous tank chase through St. Petersburg was actually filmed with a real T-55 tank. Also, the name Goldeneye is the name of Ian Fleming's Jamaican estate, where he wrote many Bond novels. So that's pretty cool. I never knew that. But you also had a good theme song by Tina Turner in this movie. And I just liked it. I mean, it had everything. If you've never seen a James Bond movie, I think you will like it if you like action movies like Mission Impossible. Any kind of movie like thriller movies. Maybe I want to say James Bond movies are kind of similar to the Die Hard movies, but Die Hard is a different kind of. It's not Die Hard is more like backstreet, mafia kind of movie, where James Bond movies are geopolitical. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the film itself. I'm glad I watched it. It kind of, the way the film goes is, if you've ever played the GoldenEye game and you've beaten the GoldenEye game on N64, it almost plays just like the game. So you'll be watching it and you'll thinking, oh yeah, I remember the stalls level, which is the first stage. I remember that stage. I remember the hangar stage, or the statue stage, or the archives, right? So you're watching this film, but you're also remembering the GoldenEye game, which is really cool to me. This GoldenEye table was from Sega, right? And let me see here. So GoldenEye Pinball it released from Sega from 1996, and look at the production numbers, is 2,200. So you have to also think about the context of this of pinball at the time, and we know by 1996 the pinball industry is already downhill, right? And so Sega is comes late to the party in pinball as well. So they try to get in on pinball, but it's too late. I mean, pinball by this time is already been taken over by Williams Bally and Data East, and Sega is not known for pinball. They're known for their arcade games, and so you have Sega's attempt at a license table, right? They got the license for Goldeneye, and they thought that would do it. That would be what makes the that sells the table, but it never really went out that way, right? Like, no one, when you think about pinball, you're not gonna think about your first thoughts aren't Sega's Goldeneye from 1996. You think about other Williams tables, Gottlieb's, Bally tables. But interesting enough, that James Bond pinball tables are still being made today from Stern. I think I played one last summer. I can't remember what it was called, but it was a James Bond table license, and there was also what was it? There was a Gottlieb one, a James Bond Gottlieb pinball table that was like timed. Let me see here. Yeah, from 1980. So, James Bond movies and pinball are sort of like, there is some connection there, but not as much as you think. But it's cool that there's still, this like, that there's still, James Bond in pinball. So I just keep it there. I hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace.